Hey guys, so today we're going to be going over a quick tutorial on Figma. And if you've never used Figma before, it's basically this tool that allows us to design, prototype, and gather feedback all in one place. And what we're going to be specifically building is this TA tracker. So from making these wireframes to actually creating this prototype that's loading now, that allows us to click and show the actual flow between the wireframes. When you first get an account with Figma and open it up, you will see this page here, and you can go ahead and make your new canvas or your new wireframes by hitting this plus new file button in the corner. When you click the new file button, you should be brought to this new canvas page. And what really matters on this canvas page are these buttons over here and this sidebar over here. Basically, this design sidebar will let us change the design of the components on our wireframe. This prototype sidebar will allow us to kind of choose our settings for how we want to share and display our wireframes when we're done. And this code sidebar will allow us to export our CSS, which is pretty cool. So yeah, let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is draw a frame on this canvas. And we want it to be a desktop frame, although you have all these options over here. We're just going to choose MacBook for now. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to build a nav bar. So if we look at what we sketched here, this has this nav bar over here and these buttons over here. So we can do that by choosing this draw rectangle feature. And then just playing around with it a little bit until we get a nav bar of the size that we want. We also want to change the color of this, so what we can do is we can click this object and hit design. The next thing we want to do is we want to write a title for this application. And then change the size and color of this font. So maybe we want this to be bigger and now we can play around with this to center, but if we notice, like when we center this object, it's not actually centered on the screen. And one way we can do with that is we can make sure that this text itself is centered within the text box. So if we just click this, now everything's centered and it looks good. So the next thing we want to do is we want to draw buttons on this page, and we can do that the same way we drew the nav bar by clicking on rectangle, drawing it out, and then just playing around with it until we like how it looks. So I'm gonna make it have round edges so that it looks more like a button. I'm gonna bring up the transparency so it looks a little bit better on the eyes. Yeah, it looks good. Maybe I'll add like a outline around it. Cool. The next thing I want to do is I want to write the TA's name on the button. So another text box, and now I'll just write TA name for now. Make sure that this is centered, and looks like we're done with that. Now that I have the button for one of the TAs, I want to make it for all of the TAs. There's several ways you can do this. Some of them are more annoying than the other ways, but the best way I can think of is just by grouping these two together and kind of treating it as like a TA button, and then making this a component. So if we right click on the object and then press create component, basically what it will do is under the assets tab here, it will add as a local component. And this is really cool because now if I wanted to recreate this same exact button, I can just drag and drop on the screen. And easily add all of these the same spacing. There it is. So the one really good thing about components is that if I wanted to change all of these buttons, I don't really have to go through each button and change them. I can just go to the component and change it, and it'll be reflected in all of the buttons that are also that same exact component. So let's say I wanted to get rid of these outlines. I could just click on this component here. Make sure that we have the actual rectangle part of it selected, and then change this to 0, and now the stroke on all of these are gone. So now that we're done making like the home page, let's make the actual page where you can see like where the TAs are located. So we want to draw another frame. We can just draw a macro frame and align it. And we want this frame to have a background color that's blue, the same blue here. So we can just copy this color. Cool. So now we just have to add these three main components. We need to add a picture, this text, and this back button. And yeah, looks like we're done. Okay. So the next really cool thing that Figma allows you to do is it allows you to kind of like show the workflow between your wireframes and between the buttons on your wireframes. So if we click this prototype button here, we can no longer kind of design things, but instead we see these like kind of odd like circle things. And basically what these things allow us to do is like link certain objects on our wireframes to other wireframes. So we can link this component to this wireframe here. And in linking that component, or linking this object to this wireframe, because this object is a component, it links all of these objects here. And we can also link this back button here. And yeah, we're basically done now. So if we were to go ahead and present our wireframe, if we click on any of these buttons, they should bring us between these two wireframes.